place we're going to start with the Primaris Librarian is of course the armour. Now, Librarians wear the blue of the Librarians. So regardless of what chapter you're painting, the armour is always going to be this coloured blue. Now it's very similar to Crimson Fist's armour, so if you're wanting to paint Crimson Fist Space Marines, this tutorial is also for you. So the colour we're going to start with is Talassar Blue, and this is to establish our highlight and give us a pre-shade on the armour. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this on our brush, and we're going to pick a place to start, and I'm going to start, I think, here on the leg. So all I want to do is I want to pick an area to begin, so I'm going to pick straight up there, and I'm just going to use broad brush strokes with this paint to establish that kind of ethereal blue, like so. I'm just going to keep very methodically painting this over all the armour panels, just taking my time, like so. With that Talassar Blue applied, we're now going to take some Leviadon Blue just to darken it all right down. And so we just want to be very careful with this. We don't want to use loads because we don't want to overwhelm the miniature at all. So we just want to start painting this Leviadon Blue all over these armour panels. And where possible, leave the hardest edges with some of that Talassar Blue still shining through. With that Leviadon Blue applied, we're now going to give all that armour a highlight of HOETH Blue. So you just want to take a little bit of this on our brush, and we just want to start running this HOETH Blue along every single one of the edges. Once all that HOETH Blue has been applied, we're going to make a roughly 8:1 mix of Contrast Medium and Ultramarines Blue. And we're just going to use this to glaze over the armour, just to blend all of these various blues that we've now got together. So we just want to gently apply this Ultramarines Blue medium mix all over the model. And this just ties together that Talassar Blue, the Leviadon Blue, and the HOETH Blue. With that Ultramarines Blue glaze applied, as you can see, we've now got this lovely dark blue armour. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the soft joints, and for this we're going to be using some black Templar. So we just use black Templar straight out of the pot, and we just want to pick a soft joint to paste this over, and we just add the black Templar in like that, just being careful to not get it on the blue that we've now painted in. And then we're going to use some iron hand steel just to pick out the ribbing on these black details, like so. So next up we're going to work on the robes, and this is quite exciting because what I'm actually painting this Primaris Librarian for is for my Instagram giveaway, and this was the prize won by @Vision Wargame, aka Matt Jarvis, and he has requested this Primaris Librarian to be part of his chapter, the Scions of Mars, I think is what they're called. I may have forgotten. I apologise, Matt, if I've got that wrong. But what he's requested is he's actually requested black robes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a technique for getting a nice soft black rather than a hard black like you'll have seen in some of my other videos for armour. So the colour that we're actually going to start with is Ultramarines Blue, and we're going to take the Ultramarines Blue on our brush and we're going to pick a place to start. And so I am actually going to start right here on the front robe. And what you want to do is you want to kind of pick a place right up here by this recess, by the pipe. You want to make contact with the model, and then you just want to start pulling that paint all the way down in one brush stroke, like that. Now the reason we're starting with the blue is because we want the blue to actually establish the highlight before we add any more kind of deeper colours to it, like the black. Because if we start straight with the black, it gets very, very difficult to kind of get a nice consistent black tone. So So we're just doing it like this, as you can see, just these big broad brush strokes, just to establish this blue tone, like so. And we're just going to keep going around the model like this. And we're always going to pick somewhere to start and then finish. So as we continue around the model, we're going to go right up here, we're going to make contact, then we're just going to pull it right down like this. And this is how we're going to get these nice even brush strokes. And we want to go quite quickly as we do this, because the longer that the paint stays wet, the less likely we are to get kind of streaks where the two layers meet. Because as the contrast dries, it kind of establishes a skin. So just going to keep going like this, just applying this Ultramarines Blue all over the cape. And next up, with that blue coat established, we're now going to add the black. So what we do is we take, again, similar to when we did the Ultramarines Blue, take a fair amount of this on our brush, and then we just pick a point to start, and we make contact with the model, and we pull the paint down. So once again, I'm going to make contact up here, and I'm just going to pull it down in a nice big broad brush stroke like that. But what I am also going to do as I'm doing this is I'm going to try and leave any of the sharpest edges that are blue, I'm going to leave them blue, so that we kind of get that first highlight on the cloak done for us automatically. So just going to keep doing this, just doing the big broad stroke, get a little bit more, big broad stroke, just like this. And we want to make our way around the entire model. With that black established, before we highlight it, what we're going to do is we're going to paint the inside of the robes. And the colour we're going to use for this is Blood Angels Red. So all we want to do is take, once again, some on our brush. I'm going to start here at this crease here. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm going to push the brush up so I get all of it in one fell swoop, like that. Just to dab that little bit off the black. You didn't see anything. I'm just going to make sure that I get all of that nice and complete, like so. And actually, I'm just going to paint this around on the rest of the interior of the robes. So including on this inside seam here. And on the other side. So like this, I'm just going to keep going around picking out all of the parts of the inside of the robe. Using this colour, I'm just going to be very careful as to not get this on any of that blue armour. With that red established, we're now going to give all the black a highlight, and for this we're going to be using some thinned down RUSS grey. And all we want to do is we just want to hit the most extreme edges of the black cape that we can find. And so when RUSS grey is quite thinned down, like I've done, sometimes it takes a couple of passes just to build up that strong colour, like I'm doing here. And once again, we're going to create a roughly 6:1 mix of contrast medium and Ultramarines Blue. And this little glaze is just to blend the black and those highlights together. So you can see that's quite a stark one there on the back. So we just want to paste this blue all over the cape. And this just takes the edge off the highlights a little bit, but also gives that black a really nice vivid blue sheen, as befitting an ethereal librarian. We can just build the colour up. Don't want to use too much at once and kind of overwhelm the miniature. We just want to paste this over in nice big broad brush strokes, just blending that black and that blue together. With that glaze applied, the robes and the armour are now, well, pretty much finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to some of the other details. And the place we're going to start is on all of these purity seals, just to get them out of the way, because this is a nice quick job. And this colour is Skeleton Horde, and this is just for all of the parchmenty, papery bits. We just want to slap this all over those papery bits, like so. Now, depending on how much you use, that's how brown it'll be. And that sounds fairly academic, but that is just a little piece of advice I wanted to give then. The less you use with Skeleton Horde, kind of more pale it will be. Whereas the more you get, the more kind of aged it'll look, particularly on something like on this base coat, spray base of grey Seer. You can see I'm just kind of using about a medium amount and just picking up any of the where it's slightly too much for my taste. But of course, it's entirely up to you how much of this you want to use. With that done, we're now going to focus on the metallic details. And for this, we're going to be using some thinned down Iron Warriors. Now for this chapter, this also includes the pauldrons. Now at this point, generally what you would do is you would fill in what the chapter heraldry would look like. So if it was Blood Angels, you would do the red here. If it was Imperial Fists, you do the yellow here. But because of this particular chapter in question, the actual colour is silver shoulder pads. So we're just going to start painting this Iron Warriors all over these shoulder pads and any other metallic details that we can find all around the miniature. With all that Iron Warriors applied, we're now going to colour in all of the gold details. And for this, we're going to be using some thinned down Retributor armour. And so this is for all the areas like on the Aquila here. With that gold applied, we're now going to paint in all the brown details. And there's only a couple of these. One, it's the book covering, the belt hanging down here, and the little clasp holding together the cloaks at the back. So the colour we're going to use for this is Cygor Brown. So you just want to be very careful here, because Cygor Brown is a very dark colour. You just want to be very careful around all of that detail that we've already painted. And next up, we're going to paint in all the cables, and we're going to be using 3 colours for this. We're going to be using Iyanden Yellow, Black Templar, and Blood Angels Red. And what we want to do is effectively, we want to use this Iyanden Yellow on kind of every 3rd cable, the Black Templar on the ribbed cables under the arms, and the Blood Angels on the every other 3rd cable. So we use the Iyanden Yellow on these big ones, first and foremost. Like this. Making sure to go all the way around to the back, like so. Then we also take this Black Templar and we just apply it in very much the same way that we just did on the yellow cable, but just on these ribbed ones under the arm. And then lastly, we use the Blood Angels Red to just colour in a couple of these cables. So we just use it there, for example. And then you might want to do one more on that side. And then you do the similar process up here on the head. And next up, we're going to paint in all the wax seals of the purity seals using some Magos Purple. With that done, we're now going to shade the metallics. And what we're going to use, first of all, is we're going to use Guilliman Flesh for all of the gold details. So we're just going to apply this Guilliman Flesh all over the gold, like so. Once all that Guilliman Flesh is dry, we're now going to work on the sword blade, and we're going to give it a nice ethereal bluey glow, like a Force sword ought to have. So what we're going to use is we're going to use Contrast Medium, Aethermatic Blue, and TERRADON Turquoise. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to take the Contrast Medium first and coat it all over. Then we're going to apply the Aethermatic Blue, and then after that, the TERRADON Turquoise. So we just want to paint this Contrast Medium all over the sword blade, like so. Just make sure we've got a fair amount of that on the tip of the blade, like so. We can do this one side at a time. So then what we do is we take the Aethermatic Blue and we paste this on to the top part of the sword blade, like so. And then we take the TERRADON Turquoise and we just start adding it in like this. Towards the bottom. Like that. Then what we do is we try and smooth out this transition here. So we take some TERRADON Turquoise and we kind of put a dot of it there and there, like that. And then we use Contrast Medium just to smooth that out. Like so. And next up, we're going to highlight all of the gold with some thinned down Liberator gold. You just want to pick out all of the edges, leaving where that Guilliman Flesh has settled in the recesses. And next up, we're going to shade all of the metallic silver. And for this, we're going to be using Basilicanum Grey. We're going to do this in two different ways. And so what we're going to do is we're going to apply the Basilicanum Grey to all of the kind of silver parts like this, just like as an all over coat on any of the kind of metallic details that aren't the shoulder pads in this case, just like this. But for the shoulder pads, what we're going to do is just to keep that really kind of nice burnished look that we get with the Iron Warriors, we're just going to run this Basilicanum Grey as a recess shade around the inside edge of the shoulder pad, like this, just by drawing a line around the inside edge, like so. So we're just going to be very careful as we do this. And next up, we're going to highlight all those silver details using some Iron Hand Steel. And next up, we're going to paint some hazard stripes on all of the yellow flat cables that we've got scattered around the model. So there's one on each arm and there's one on the head. Well, there's two on the head. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some black Templar to do this. And we don't want very much on our brush. Just want a very small amount, kind of like that. And then we just want to pick a cable on which to start. So I'm going to start up here on the head, and we just want to paint these kind of diagonal lines going equidistant across the cable. With that hazard stripe done, what we're going to do now is we're going to paint all the glowing bits, and this is going to be his eyes, this little nodule up here, and on the hand. And for this, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a bit of grey Seer. So we just want to paint this grey Seer over all the bits that we want to glow. And this is because we're going to use contrast over this dark colour to give us that glow that we're after. And once that grey Seer is dry, we're going to take some Aethermatic Blue and we're going to paste this all over the areas that we've added this grey Seer to. Like so. And once that Aethermatic Blue is dry, we're going to use some ULTHUAN Grey just to really give it a bit of shine. We just want to use a little bit of a dot here and there with this colour. And then lastly, we want to add a tiny, tiny bit of Talassar Blue just in certain parts of these glowy bits. So we just want to kind of use this to just take the edge off certain areas, just to kind of give it that really ethereal looking. And with that done, all that's left to do now is do the base. And as you can see, the Primaris Librarian is looking pretty fantastic. I'm very, very pleased with him. So now I'm going to just move on to the base. And the customer, Matt, his basing scheme is a dark grey stone. So what I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using some ASTROGRANITE debris just to establish that rocky, stony base. And next up, we're going to give all of that ASTROGRANITE a shade of BASILICANUM grey. And next up, we're going to give all of that basing the ASTROGRANITE debris a very light dry brush of some ADMINISTRATUM grey. So there you have it, one Primaris Librarian all painted. I hope you enjoyed this one. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.